YouTube, Heir of Carthage here, and I'm actually representing Carthage for once, as the Heir of Carthage, which doesn't take place a whole lot these days just because Rome is pretty old. It's still a great game, but as much as I like Shogun, my heyday for Rome has definitely passed, but it doesn't mean that I don't like to play it from time to time. Like, actually, I have a campaign going on it right now just for fun. And some of you might ask, will you film it? No, I won't. I've filmed quite a lot of Rome campaign, and it's possible you could see some in the future, but no guarantees. So, here's the deal. I am actually playing against Aceblazer. Some of you might have been seeing him show up a lot on Prince Macedon's channel recently. Aceblazer and I are friends from way back on YouTube, and yeah, so it's pretty much, he and I, like a long time ago, started playing some semi-historical matchups. We even played some of the historical battles. So when he and I play, a lot of times we like to do some, I'm going to call it semi-historical matchups, because our armies are going to be a lot more realistic, but they're not going to be like perfect realism. So as Carthage, what I've done here is I have 4 Libyan spearmen, 2 on each flank. I've got a unit of slingers. I've got 4 Spanish mercenaries right up the center, and then I got 4 Iberian infantry right behind them, so it represents all the Spanish troops that Hannibal would have had, and then the smaller contingent of Libyan Phoenicians, and then here's some Balearic slingers, and then my cav contingent's pretty simple. I got 2 Numidian cav, yeah, 2 Numidian cav and 2 round shield, and then my Hannibal unit here is a Sacred Band cavalry. So we got Hannibal here leading the Sacred Band. The Carthaginian officers usually would have been a part of that. Would have been a cavalry officer for the most part. The Carthaginian infantry, like actual Carthaginian citizens, is extremely rare, and there isn't really much mention of it after the Sacred Band was destroyed in on Sicily by the Greeks. So here's Ace's Roman army. He's going to represent basically Scipio Africanus here. He's got, it looks like, 3 velites up front, and then he's got a unit of Roman archers. Obviously these light units are probably meant to deal with my elephants, which I have the 1 unit of African elephants, or wood elephants, whatever they call them. So let's see, I think Ace has 4 Hastati, I think he's got 4 Principae, 2 Triarii, 2 Equites, and a Roman general. I do believe that is his army. His men are going to have solid upgrades. The Roman infantry pound for pound would have been better for the most part than Hannibal's infantry, with the exception of like maybe Hannibal's veterans or something. Now it doesn't mean that Hannibal's infantry wasn't capable, it's just the simple fact is that the Romans were much more well trained and drilled troops, very well armed and well supplied. Now Hannibal was a pretty good logistical genius when it came to supplying his troops, but again, you just have to understand that the Carthaginians didn't field a professional army, they fielded armies of mercenaries. So there's a very big difference between the Carthaginians and the Romans when it came to fighting, and obviously the Roman system was superior. Now, what made the Carthaginians so successful was a good leader like Hannibal, and that wasn't always common among the Carthaginians. In fact, they weren't really apt to military leadership, and that's why they've so frequently got their butts kicked in past wars. And then not only that, whenever they would get a good leader like Hannibal or his father Hamilcar, the Carthaginian council usually didn't like to listen to them. Again, because the Carthaginians weren't a very war-minded people. They were really all about trade. And their expertise when it did come to warfare was definitely in the naval area, and the Romans just managed to out-innovate them there. So the Romans were definitely an innovative people, a strong-willed people, and their armies were quite strong. So we're just doing kind of a light infantry skirmish. My cavalry is back here harassing Ace. I hit some of his troops. My Numidians are back here doing their thing, which is angering Romans. Hannibal used them to that effect many, many times. And you can see that they're pretty deadly versus light cav, as they should be. And then I'm just using my round shield cav here too to run in and out, just trying to distract some of his forces. Again, Hannibal was big on distraction and whatnot. Now here I'm absolutely ripping these Triarii with my Numidian cav. Yeah, these guys don't have a prayer catching my men. However, they are pretty well armored, and once they turn to face me, my javelins aren't going to do as much damage as they were when these guys were turned around the other way. Here's Ace's Roman archers. They're probably firing at my Balearic slingers, who did a lot of damage to his velites. Now here I left my men in loose formation to throw my javelins, hopefully taking less damage from his javelins. That was the idea. I don't really know how that works, but I end up causing a pretty good deal of damage to his Hastati line, and take fairly minimal losses in return, seeing as that I've already taken all his velite fire and all of his Hastati fire. So I'm going to put my men up into tight formation and go ahead and charge forward. I want to get the charge bonus if possible, because these Spanish mercenaries don't stand a chance against all this Roman infantry, to be quite honest. And I'm hoping that my line of Iberians can help mop up after these guys rout, because I fully expect them to rout. Now over here, my cavalry, one of them got routed, and I was trying to get his other troops to come back here into my Libyan spears, and I kind of got them. So here comes the charge of the Spanish troops, and then here's going to come the Pila from the Principe. So the Principe's Pila is definitely going to rout me out. Now I thought my Numidians could probably take his Equites in a fight. That turned out to be incorrect. So I lost my Numidians, and I'm going to charge in all my reinforcing infantry now and try and build up a stout line. But the problem is, with these Scutarii routing, it's going to adversely affect my my Iberian infantry who are weak. So look at this unit right here, routs with like 70 men left. But again, the Romans, men, were better disciplined. So I'm counting on my Libyan spearmen over here to hold the ground just a little bit longer. Here comes my elephant. Ace is trying to hit them with flaming missiles, but I'm going to get them right into the backs of his men. And that's going to rout these Hastati, and then I'm just going to keep them moving. I don't want them to sit still. I'm just going to keep bringing these on through here and trying to chuck Romans and get the morale effect. And you can see that it is working. I caused a rout with one of his units, and then I caused routs with more of his units. So this is how Hannibal should have used his elephants against Scipio, rather than running them straight forward in the beginning. But that was typical Carthaginian practice, to just run them forward. So you can see I caused a pretty massive rout of the Roman infantry, fortunately, because much as should be expected in real life, the Roman infantry was just pound for pound better than anything Hannibal would have had, other than his elite veterans. So now I'm going to use my elephants to help tilt the favor of the cavalry fight. My Sacred Band cavalry is very good, but Ace has like a lot of other troops around, and so I'm not sure if it can actually like take them all out. The Romans would have had, I think the people from Campania would have had some heavy cavalry, but it wasn't very common in Roman armies. And usually, if they had heavy cavalry, they used auxiliary. Elephants help rout cavalry very quick, though, so that's one of the things I was just using them for. I can't believe these guys haven't run amok, to be honest. It's probably because his Velites didn't get a chance to go at him. Velites can rout chariots and elephants pretty well if you use them right. So here comes my elephants for another charge. Probably going to be hitting as many of my own men at this point as I am Romans, but the morale effect doesn't affect your own men, which is kind of goofy. It probably should, but it doesn't. I guess my men don't mind being trampled by elephants. Oh, this is pretty funny. I didn't realize Hannibal was getting routed by Ace's regrouped troops, so here Scipio Africanus comes back, routs Hannibal, who is now here running in front of that, and so I think Ace is just having like a fun joy kill here, trying to take down my general. Since I am going to win the fight, he thought it would be funny probably to take down my general in the midst. So there's Hannibal, and Hannibal dies at the very end, but then my elephants quickly get revenge for Hannibal. So Scipio doesn't much like those elephants. Anyway, so that's kind of a fun, like I said, semi-historical matchup. It was definitely a bloody battle. The elephants turned the favor there, as I had hoped they would. Hope you like my name in this battle too, Cheese Spammer. I wanted to sign online and not make a big deal out of it, because I know if I come on under the name Heir of Carthage, I'm going to get like a bajillion messages, which is okay. But today I was kind of busy, so I didn't have time to answer a lot of stuff. So anyway, there's the statistics. The weird thing about that particular battle is that I guess it could have not been super representative, because typically the Romans would have fielded more men than the Carthaginians. And it's just Hannibal usually used different tactics to beat him. However, I believe it was at Zama when Hannibal actually fielded more infantry than Scipio Africanus, but Scipio Africanus for once had the cavalry advantage. Anyway, hope you liked that historical matchup, but that's not the end. Ace and I did several more historical, like I said, semi-historical, I should say, matchups. These aren't perfect. So after that I asked him, I was like, you know, what about another fun matchup, something like the Macedonians versus the Greeks, so it would be like Alexander versus the Greek city-states. So I decided to play as Alexander first. Now I don't really know much about the historicity of Macedonian armies, so the army I brought is just hopefully semi-representative of what he might have had. I know they don't have Hypaspis or Hydaspis or whatever they call them. Yeah, I think it was Hypaspitae or something like that. I wish they had them on this game. They don't, because I would have used them to support the flanks of my phalanx. Now my phalanx is made up of phalanx pikemen. Now the Macedonians would have had troops like this, a professional army. And then I have my royal pikemen holding up my left flank. Again, I don't know the historicity of all this, but I just have them out here on their own. And then I have a bunch of cav. I've got light lancers, 2 Macedonian cavalry. I guess this would represent some allied cavalry. and then Alexander is here in this companion unit. So that's what I've done, and then my light infantry is 2 archers and 2 peltast, or I guess peltasti, or whatever they would have called them. Again, I don't know all the history behind this. So I'm going to try and fight Macedonian style, which is the main phalanx supported by cavalry and light infantry. That's about all I know about them in general. Let's go ahead and fast forward, and we'll look at the Greek army that Aceblazer brought. And again, we're trying to make these semi-historical, so you're not going to see us like just stocking up on elite units like people do online. And I don't know why more people don't do this. I mean, it's kind of fun, to be honest. He's got 2 units of heavy peltast. These guys are supposed to be able to serve as like infantry and peltast, but they made them a little too weak. So let's see, he's got some armored hoplites, 2 of them, and then the remainder of his 4 hoplites are just the regular type. Now, Greek hoplites would have been quite well trained. Now, they had like levy-type hoplites for necessities, but certain city-states like Thebes and Athens and Sparta fielded some pretty elite hoplites. However, they wouldn't have been large in numbers, that's for sure. The Macedonians would have had a large professional army. So here he's got some Greek cav, looks like a Cretan archer. It seemed like he had 2 of these. Looks like he only has 1. He's got his Greek general here, and then he's got his militia cav over here. So I have a decisive cav advantage. To be quite honest, my infantry is better as well. Now his armored hoplites would shred my phalanx pikemen, but he doesn't have a lot of them. So yeah, Ace is definitely at a lot of disadvantages here. Now my archers are firing at his Cretans, and then my peltast, I had him up here skirmishing, just trying to throw a few javelins, cause a little bit of damage before the fight starts. I don't expect much. Peltast are pretty weak. I don't even think I killed one of these armored hoplites, which kind of makes sense. I mean, the hoplites would have been heavily armored in bronze. So here comes the phalanx fight. Now, of course, the phalangist of Macedon would have had the longer sarissa, as opposed to the Greeks. The Greeks didn't actually fight in an underhanded phalanx like you see right here. They actually fought in an overhanded phalanx with a shorter spear. So their phalanx was definitely different than the Alexandrian phalanx. 2 different ideas. And the Greeks would have also been lined up shield to shield and fighting with the spear overhand, kind of like you see in the Rome Total Realism mods. So my Macedonian cav made quick work of that flank. My royal pikes are coming around trying to take care of this flank. Ace is trying to charge his general, do anything he can to keep me from outflanking these hoplites, because it's not going to take much for these hoplites to get routed. And over here I smashed his heavy peltast with Alexander's unit. From everything I hear, Alexander was not afraid to get into battle, so that's why I'm trying to bring him out here and not just keep him safe behind the lines. So I've now got a wrap-up scenario going on Ace's flank. However, over here on his flank with his armored hoplites, he's of course piercing through my men. My light infantry is trying to help rectify this, but they don't have a huge effect on these armored troops. Here I got a massive hammer and anvil charge with my Macedonian cav, and caused a further rout. So now things are definitely looking grim for the Greek city-states. I would expect that in real life the Macedonians probably would have had a decisive cavalry advantage over the Greeks. It doesn't seem like the Greeks were big on cavalry. Now again, I'm not super familiar with the historicity of this, but I do know that the Greeks tended to fight with heavy infantry and tended to like the type of fight that they considered to be a little more honorable, which is kind of like a man-to-man, show up with infantry, duke it out. There was definitely not as much honor, it doesn't seem like, in the position of light infantry, and it also doesn't seem like they were huge on cavalry. But that probably depends on the individual commander, though, so I don't want to stereotype all Greeks according to, you know, such a thing. Alright, so that ended up being a clear victory for me. So, but don't count Ace out, we got more historical matchups. In fact, the next match is going to be the swap of what you just saw right there. So I decided to play as the Greeks, and Ace is going to play as the Macedonians. Now the Greeks are definitely going to be at a disadvantage in this type of matchup. Like I said, the Macedonians had a professional phalanx who was well trained and well disciplined, and they also had good cavalry. So there was definite advantages in the professional army. Now, and of course the Greeks had professional armies as well. And I'm taking a slightly different take on the Greeks. I've brought 3 units of elite hoplites, which is armored hoplites, and then my general is here in the Spartan hoplite. So my general is going to be a Spartan, and this would have been the case in some cases. You had Spartans maybe leading certain armies. They were pretty keen on trying to be the big boss on the block, it seems like. And then I've got lots of hoplites, and here's my 2 armored hoplites. I've got 6 regular hoplites, 2 armored hoplites, Spartan hoplites. So I've got 9 hoplites altogether. But again, Ace's phalanx is going to be superior in quality to these regular hoplites. They're pretty panicky. My cav, I have a militia cav, or 2 militia cav, 2 Greek cav, 2 heavy peltast, 2 Cretan archers, or sorry, 3 heavy peltast. And the idea of these guys is I'm going to try and damage one of his flanks really bad with a lot of missile fire. And I really, well, you'll see what I do with these guys. I feel like I could have used these guys better in this battle, but you'll see what happens. So here's my army setup. I've got one flank loaded with my heavy peltast, general and elite hoplites in the center to try and help hold the center. My flanks, though, are going to be weaker out here with these regular hoplites. I just don't want my center to collapse. So that's kind of the idea. And then I'm just going to harass with my militia cav and try and draw his cavalry away and cause as much damage to it as I can in the process. So these guys just have, attack upgrades. I'm going to try and just pelt some of his heavy cavalry. I probably should have brought, all militia cav, to be honest, and just tried to whittle down his cavalry. And then maybe brought like a Greek general or something, even if I didn't put my general there. I don't know. There's lots of different things I could have done. Let's go ahead and fast forward. Let's go take a look at Ace's army here. Now I also have I have better missiles than Ace. He's brought 1 Cretan archer, 2 regular archers. And I'm not even going to focus on his archers. I'm just going to start hammering one of his phalanx pikemen. These guys don't have very good shields for blocking incoming missile fire, so I'm going to try and just take one of his pikemen out of the fight before things even get started. So I think he has 5 phalanx pikemen, and then his royal pikemen right here on this flank. Yeah, 5 phalanx pikemen, 1 royal pikeman, all with solid upgrades. And right away you can see my militia cav. I'm going to come up. I leave them on skirmish. They're going to start hurling javelins this way. I kind of wish they would have gone for his heavy cav. I think eventually they do. He's got a light lancer unit here, which is not quite as fast as a militia cav, but it's pretty close. If they can get you pinned up against the red line, they'll get you. So here's his Macedonian, or his general. He's got his general right here with some companion cav, and on this flank he's got a Macedonian cav. So he's got a pretty cool army, and then he's got some Illyrian mercenaries too. I didn't bring these guys as Macedon. So the archer fight is underway. He's shooting at my archers. I'm shooting at this 1 unit of phalanx pikemen, and Cretan archers will rip up a phalanx pike unit. Just because these guys, like I said, they don't have the same kind of armor as hoplites or sacred band or anything like that. So you can see my Cretans are going to just absolutely rip apart this unit. And I'm sure Ace is now aiming at my Cretans, trying to keep me from being able to continue this behavior. But I do have 3 Cretans, so it's going to take him a second to take them all out. Now over here, I'm still harassing his men with my militia cav, and out here I've taken his light lancers way away. I'm going to try and out micromanage his cav, but it's going to be hard because his mobile component is quite large, and plus he's got his is tougher in a melee. So my best bet is to kind of do hit and run tactics here. Like I said, just keep his cav distracted, keep it away from my back lines. You can see that I did wreck this entire unit of phalanx pikemen. And again, that was my idea, was to try and weaken a spot in his infantry, and this is in the center, so that hopefully my center can bust through his quicker and create some problems that'll make it hard for him to hammer an anvil. Now I've got a couple of hoplites to help guard the back, and also my Greek cav to help slow down any oncoming hammer and anvil charges, because we all know that that was a Macedonian trademark. And here goes the fight, though. My hoplites are going to get massacred by these phalanx pikemen, just absolutely massacred. And on this flank, it happens very quickly. My heavy peltast just didn't cause the damage that I'd hoped they would. I don't know if they threw their spears wrong or what. Here I try and take down some of this Macedonian cav. I even get a little bit of an encirclement going, but it's just really not going to do anything. They're just way better cav than mine. So I've got my hoplite standing by here to try and keep the backline safe. You can see that my regular hoplites are already routing in the line of battle, and my cav is already gone, other than this militia cav I have out here, and I do take them into action momentarily. So here my hoplites are going to try and block this hammer and anvil charge. My men weren't quite in phalanx though, so my Spartans are absolutely devastating these phalanx pikes in the center, and then on this flank I'm doing okay, but I didn't move these heavy peltast around the flank quick enough. That was one of the mistakes that I made in this battle, actually. And so here they're just getting mowed down by Ace's missile troops. So you can see me activating those units that I had forgotten about. But these Spartans are going to hold out for a long time. These guys are tougher than nails, kind of like they would have been in real life. And they would not have easily given way to the enemy. So here I got my heavy peltast around the flanks, but it's kind of too late. They've gotten really depleted. I should have brought these guys sooner. And then I also should have brought these militia cav sooner and taken out his archer force. At this point, I'm a little bit worried, though, so I'm going to ignore his archer force and try and get a hammer and anvil strike, but this is just militia cav, so not much to be expected from these guys. His archers immediately train in on him and start to wipe them out, and their strike is less than successful, as you can see. But Ace's hammer and anvil strikes are not meeting a ton of success because he's hitting Spartans, and I turned them into his cavalry, so he's going to be losing a lot of men. But there goes my Spartan commander, and the Macedonian cavalry was able to make a breakthrough. And although I'm winning a couple of isolated pockets of this fight, overall I'm definitely losing. So my armored hoplites and my Spartans were doing quite well, but the rest of my troops were getting thrashed. Here's my armored hoplites still holding out like a bunch of beasts. They're ready to force these Macedonian swine back north. But the thing is they're going to die here. And whether or not they'll be remembered like their brethren at Thermopylae is up to question. Probably not. There's the Macedonian horses doing what they do best. And then my last troops alive are out here. I'm going to reactivate them in a moment. I was trying to focus on the main battle line and didn't really run these guys back quick enough. But it was too late. Ace has just got too many men for me to beat at this point. Here I'm going to try and just kill some of his cavalry, maybe even Alexander is just kind of a token for myself. But Ace has a ton of infantry, and as soon as it gets here, these guys are going to be screwed. Now he's got light lancers behind me here, and he's trying to split my attention, maybe get me to turn towards the light lancers. But one thing's for sure is I'm going to keep these spears pointed very much at his general and these companion cavalry. I'm not really worried about the light lancers, even if they're going to hit me from behind. I just want to kill some of his companions before this fight's over. So check this out. Yeah, his light lancers didn't do much. So here comes his companions. And look how quick my hoplites tear down a whole bunch of these guys. Actually, these are Macedonian cav, and then there's his general. But they get encircled and killed, so at least they got a few kills before they went. My last hoplite unit here is going to just end up routing out of fear. So good game to Ace on this one. Definitely hard to win this battle as the Greek city-states, as we both saw. And there's the results. Let's move on to the last historical matchup. Alright folks, now one thing I've learned about these historical matchups is that it's kind of fun to roleplay. So you need to kind of, I mean, like, you don't have to do exactly what, you know, people did in history, but it's kind of fun to at least act with the same mentality that the nation that you're playing as might have. So I'm playing as the Scipii Romans in this case, and I'm going to be playing against the Spaniards, or the Iberians. They call them Spaniards on this game, but the Iberians would have been the right name. So as Hannibal sent his force to invade Italy, and he started whooping up on the Romans in Italy, the Romans actually sent a force into Carthaginian Spain, and started pushing back against the Carthaginians there. And the Carthaginians and the Spaniards met with some success, but in the end the Romans were able to win those battles. Again, the Carthaginians didn't have a lot of good leaders. Hannibal and Hamilcar were very much an exception to that rule, and the Romans had, like I said, very well trained and very well equipped armies, and if given the right circumstances in battle, they would usually win. Now, the reason why Hannibal was so often successful is because he played against those Roman tactics. The Romans wanted an open, pitched battle. Hannibal rarely gave it to them, and he used all types of strategy that the Romans would have a hard time keeping up with. And again, other Carthaginian leaders did not really implement that very well. And like I said, the Romans were definitely a fierce people when it came to the battlefield. So I have 5 Principes, 4 Hastati, 3 Triarii, Roman Archer, Roman Gen, 2 Equites, and 3 Velites. So this is my Primarian Scipii army that would have gone to Spain to try and beat back the Iberians and the Carthaginians in that area. And I believe it was, I don't remember if it was Cornelius Scipio or whether it was Scipio Africana. I think Scipio Africana spent some time in Spain, actually. But it could have been Cornelius Scipio who was leading the troops. I don't really remember. It's been a while. Alright, so Ace is playing as the Iberians. Now, his army here looks pretty small, and to be quite honest, he's playing as the Iberians, so he's got to have a trap set. The Iberians don't have a chance at taking the Romans head-on, and the Iberians were pretty famous for their ambush tactics and hit-and-run tactics. The Romans had a hard time fighting it sometimes, but eventually they did conquer it. Let's see what he's got visible. He's got 2 long shields, Balearic Slinger, 2 skirmishers, And then he's got a line of Scutarii here with one Bull Warrior out on the flank. Now, this Bull Warrior would kick the living crap out of any of my units in a one-on-one fight. That is the one redeeming quality of Spain, is their Bull Warriors are very strong indeed. Now, his Scutarii and his Bull Warrior also have Pila, basically, because remember, the Romans actually got their fighting style from some of these Iberian tactics. So here comes the skirmish fight. My Velites are going to duke it out with his skirmishers. Nothing big going to be going on here. You can see the stones from Ace's slingers, slinging over this way too. I brought my Equites out here, actually expecting to lose this fight, but it's possible that because of my little surrounding thing here, that the long shields don't have very good morale, and neither do Equites, but that could be the reason why I was able to win this. I really didn't expect to beat long shields. I also had a little bit of a downhill advantage, it looks like. So Ace comes out to an early disadvantage here by losing that cav. And then he's got this Iberian infantry out here singled out. I'm going to take advantage of that. These guys have terrible morale. So I'm going to hit them with my cavalry. They're horrible at fighting cav. Here I'm going to circle up with Scipio and wipe those guys out. His cav is going to come back from routing, but if you look at the battlefield, Ace either has troops hidden here, or he's got troops hidden here, or both. Now the Romans, though, they didn't like backing down from an enemy. They like to go head on and fight, and so I'm going to use that mentality. I'm trying to act like a Roman here, go head on and fight, and if I get ambushed, then I'll try and react to it. Now I'm sure that the Romans, sometimes worried about ambush and stuff like that, but they were definitely confident in their ability to take an enemy head on, and their army was actually made for that type of fight. That's why they used this Acer triplex formation that you see me in. The Hastati would begin the fight, and as they got tired, they would fall back through the gaps in the line and let the Principes take over, and then they would be able to rest while the Principes fought, and if worse came to worse, the Triarii, which were the most seasoned veteran, would hold the line against enemy troops while the Romans were able to make a tactical retreat. So their formation was definitely all about the head-on type fight. Again, very well trained, very well disciplined soldiers on the Roman side, also well armed and well equipped, and led by men who generally had experience. However, sometimes more political Roman leaders would get into military positions. So the Romans didn't always have the best leaders either. There were certainly some Romans with a lot more military aptitude than others. Say, for instance, Fabius, who brought on the Fabian tactics that actually eventually helped defeat Hannibal. People didn't like his tactics, but obviously Fabius knew something that they didn't. He knew that by going after Hannibal, Hannibal would frequently outthink them and outmaneuver them. So he was the one that used the delaying tactics and scorched earth type stuff, basically to try and prevent Hannibal from being able to resupply and rearm and re-equip. So he would basically just follow behind Hannibal and keep him trapped in the right spots. Now, of course, the Romans didn't like that, and eventually, of course, they voted Fabius out and brought in, I believe, oh man, I'm trying to remember the names of the leaders at Cannae on the Roman side. I believe it was it Paulus and then someone else, it seems like. I don't remember. I can't remember their names right at the moment, but of course, the Romans were itching for a victory over Hannibal, and of course they all knew that Fabius was just some kind of moron for his delaying tactics, and they knew that they could just go beat Hannibal. And I guess they learned their lesson the hard way. It wasn't long before Fabius was back into a position of power, and they were using his tactics again. And eventually, though, the Romans got sick of it again. But Scipio Africanus took a different approach. Rather than trying to beat Hannibal in Italy, he actually took an army and went to North Africa to force Hannibal back. So even though Scipio did want to fight Hannibal straight on and take a victory, it's obvious by that point that Scipio had learned enough respect for Hannibal to try a slightly different approach. Now here I just did a quick charge in on some of his infantry with my general. He counteracted with his general's armored bodyguard, which is definitely a better unit than my general. I lost my Equites in a fight to his long shield, so I now have no cavalry other than my general. But my general is a pretty tough unit. Definitely better than these long shield cav. Here he's got some Scutarii coming back from, these are the troops that I routed earlier. At this point I start chasing his troops because the Romans have had enough skirmishing, and they want to have a straight-on infantry fight here, and I do not discharge my Pilla. I was doing this to try and make the fight a little more even because the Roman infantry is a lot better. I really should have discharged my Pilla, though. It was definitely a Roman way of fighting. But I decided not to discharge my Pilla. I was like, you know what, I can win this. I'm just thinking Roman here, right? I'm just going to charge in, I'm going to take these guys down, I don't have to discharge Pilla. So Ace keeps falling back. Obviously, because I expect he has a trap. I did a little bit of scouting in these woods and didn't turn anything up, so at this point his hiding force is probably up here. Here my general and my regrouped equites shattered these long shields and those infantry units. And I'm going to push forward with these equites. And I'm actually hit his general right here. This fight won't go in my favor, that's for sure. But I was just hoping that on the charge maybe I could get a couple of kills, but I do not end up killing but maybe one guy. Yeah, one guy there. And here comes my Hastati, eager for fight. His men are continuing to hurl javelins and retreat. But at this point I'm going to charge. He's not going to be able to continue to run, and I'm going to keep my Principes and Triarii nearby for support. Hastati are not really the toughest units, but against these barbarian units they are fairly tough. Now Ace pulls a smart move here, which is a quick hammer and anvil strike before my Principes can intercept. So here he comes. And these Hastati were not heavy infantry, and so they're going to get wasted early on. Again, at this point I'm feeling pretty confident because my Principes are some tough guys. So I don't even discharge my Pilla. So I'm using the arrogant Roman leader strategy here. I was like, you know what, I'll waste these guys. But here comes Ace's hidden force. He's got 3 round shield cav with good upgrades, his general, and 2 naked fanatics along with another Balearic slinger. So this is the Spanish trap that I was expecting. So now we're going to see if my Roman ego is going to get me killed or if I'll be able to survive. So here comes Ace. He's going to come in, make the devastating blow on these Principes. My Hastati start to rout, so I bring the remainder of my Principes forward, and then also my Triarii here. I'm going to try and entrap some of this cavalry and get them routed. But he does have naked fanatics in the mix, and these guys are way more than a match in a melee with Triarii. So there we go. Naked fanatics are actually pretty tough. They're just a little bit finicky on their morale, and but if you're using Warcry with them and they're fighting in the woods or snow, they're actually really strong. And as long as you don't get them under a lot of missile fire, they are vulnerable to missiles. So Ace kind of has the cavalry horde going here in the center, trying to cause some routes, and it's working. I do have Triarii here though, but the problem is once his cavalry retreats and the Spanish infantry takes back over, my Triarii aren't going to do as well. So I do cause a number of kills, but he's definitely got an advantage on me out here on this flank. My Triarii can't handle these naked fanatics, and I don't really have a lot of troops. These came back from routing, so I'm going to rush them in, try and do anything I can to turn the tide. But there my general routed, and gets killed, and causes a lot of morale issues with my troops now.
Much better to have lived.
Again, though, you can see the discipline of the Romans. They stay in the fight here a long time, even though Ace hit them with some nice flanking maneuvers. These bull warriors are very tough, though. These guys have 2 hit points, so it'll take my Principes a long time if they ever manage to cut through them. But you can see Ace setting up some cavalry out on the flanks too. Let's see, so yeah, my flank over here collapsed. My regrouped Hastati couldn't handle these naked fanatics. I mean, who could handle it? I mean, how can you sit there and fight a guy when you have to see that kind of stuff? My Triarii are going to bite the dust here too. Now I actually think that that on Rome Total War they really misrepresented the Triarii in my opinion. Now the Triarii very well could have been carrying, I think they did carry heavy spears, but they also would have carried a sword. And remember, these guys are like very experienced veterans, and they would have been tough as nails. So I kind of think these guys got a little bit misrepresented on Rome Total War, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. And so the Spaniards and their trap tactics have managed to win the day here. It was quite common for the Spaniards to be outnumbered. Or at least that's what Ace says. I don't really know one way or the other. So the Romans had the numerical advantage, but the Spaniards used their mobility and the tactics of hiding and stuff to be able to pull out a win. My last few troops are here. I'm going to send them forward on a gallant Roman suicide mission. Hope you enjoyed these semi-historical matches. You can see that Ace and I had a good time with it too. And, you know, it all went well. I won a couple, he won a couple. We both had a good time. Plus, it's never about winning in the end anyway. It's just about having fun. And honestly, I think Rome Total War is a lot more fun game whenever people don't like focus on non-stop like elite units, like all urban cohorts, all royal pikemen, all sacred band. Now, I mean, that's the way I played the game a lot. But it gets old, and it's too bad that it's harder to convince people to play with semi-historical armies like this, because it's kind of fun. And it's kind of fun when the number of elite units is limited. Like, it's almost too bad that CA can't go back and patch Rome to where it's kind of like on Empire, where you can only bring like certain numbers of elite units. Same thing on Napoleon. I think it creates a lot more fun gameplay, like you saw on Empire and Napoleon, to be honest. So here we go. Ace is going to charge down these archers and finish the battle. So, good game to Aceblazer. Hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure and check out his channel if you want to see some, I think he's doing some Medieval 2 and some Rome Total War mod videos. So he's kind of filling the gap there where the rest of us commentators are probably focusing mostly on Shogun. Hope you enjoyed these battles. Good game to Ace. I'm sure you'll see more Ace on my channel in the future. Like I said, he and I have spent a lot of time together on YouTube since the early days, and I always enjoy playing matches with him.